Good in the back. Here we go. It's 10:01, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is 10 o'clock, 10:01 on October 27th, 2020. This is the regular meeting for the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners. At this time, I would ask Mr. Ben West, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. West. I appreciate you leading us through the salute to our flag this morning. Before we get into roll call, I wanted to announce everybody we are in person here in the Washoe County Chambers. We are also on Zoom. So for those of you who would like to speak during public comment, you're going to on Zoom today. If you could raise your hand, and then we'll acknowledge you through that. But we just wanted to say that we are socially distanced here in the lobby or in the chambers. And with that, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Yes, you can. Bob Lucy, Chair.
Here.
Marcia Burke-Bigler, Vice Chair.
Here.
Kitty Jung via phone.
Present.
Vaughn Hartung.
Here.
And Jeannie Herman is absent. Eric Brown, County Manager. Assistant District Attorney David Watts-Val via Zoom.
Here.
And I'm Jan Galasini, your County Clerk. Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, Mr. Manager, we are on to item 3, public comment.
Item 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
All right. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments signed in?
We have Anne Marie Grant via voicemail.
All right. Can we play that voicemail now? All right. Hold on a second.
Anne Marie Grant, for the record, sister of Thomas Purdy, murdered by Reno police, hogtied by Officer Christopher Good, Maxwell Tallman, and Jorge Aparicio for 40 minutes during a mental health crisis. He was then dumped at Par, still hogtied, begged for his life, and was asphyxiated to death. I recently heard there is a COVID outbreak at the jail. You do have a legal duty under NRS 211.020. Just want to remind you of that. I also would like to read some comments that I saw from people who were inmates at the jail or recently released. I was just released from the COVID unit the other day in the morning. I was in one of the working units that got quarantined, and it is a total bleep show. One old-timer in the pod next to mine was coughing up a lung for at the bare minimum 5 days before the deputies and the nurses started checking him out. And the PPEs are a joke. My job was a porter for the unit, so cleaning. And we constantly had to order rags and bleach from down the hill to clean properly. This is out of control to the point it's criminal negligence. Another one, I did 7 months there, and they have mice in the kitchen running on the inmate trays. They have cats in the warehouse to try and catch the mice running around. I've seen deputies use excessive force when it wasn't needed. The food isn't food. Stuff in the food bags we get from the warehouse are outdated and says not for human consumption. The juice they mix with the water is known to cause cancer. They don't care. So it sounds to me like there's a problem. I don't think when you go up to the jail, as you claim, that you're actually listening or actually speaking to the people who are actually affected by jail, and that's the inmates. They actually are your constituents, and they actually do have a right to vote. Many of these people are waiting for their day in court due to COVID and haven't even been convicted of a crime. It's your job. I know you want the NRS change, but until that happens, it is your job. Justice for Thomas Purdy. Have a good day.
All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any other further public comment this morning?
We do. We have an email from Daniel Purdy.
All right, and will you please read that into the record?
Yes. Daniel Purdy, brother of Thomas Purdy, murdered by Washoe County Jail. I have addressed the committee time and time again to see the commission just sit on their hands and do nothing about what is going on in the jail. Recently, there has been 16 confirmed cases of COVID-11 inmates, and inmates on lockdown for 24 hours a day amounts to torture. Common sense would tell you if there's ventilation system, the virus can spread throughout the jail. So by locking people in the cell, all you're doing is torturing them. I'm sure some of you get enjoyment out of other people's suffering, but let's not forget every person is there, has not even been convicted of a crime, but you'll treat them like they have. As far as I'm concerned, you commissioners have committed crimes against humanity. If you have kids, how do you go home and look at them every night is beyond me. But as I've said before, you won't believe it unless it happens to you. You're supposed to help the community. I don't mean by giving the police extreme funding, approving tactical vehicles that they use on the battlefield. Oh, you commissioners have blood on your hands, and you refuse to hold the police accountable. You choose just to pay out taxpayer money to make things go away. You have deputy who gets in a car accident drunk and gets in a promotion. I think there's something messed up about what you think. Feel free to reply. But I don't think you will, because you have no answer. One day there will be change when we get every single one of you out of office. We need people that care about people. We don't need ignorant people like the commissioners who just close their eyes and collect a paycheck. That is all we have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anybody via Zoom wishing to speak? All right, seeing none via Zoom, we will bring it back to the commission. Mr. Manager, item 4.
Item 4 is Commissioner and County Manager announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commissions updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Mr. Manager, do you have anything this morning?
Mr. Chair, I do. As I think everyone knows, a week from today is Election Day, and if for the public that has not voted yet, I sound like a broken record because I've been saying this the last 2 meetings, but do yourself a favor. Ballots have been distributed. If you can vote early, we encourage you to do so by dropping your ballot off at one of our drop-off locations. You can find those locations at the Registrar of Voters website, or by coming here to 9th Street and dropping off here. Yeah, I might also note that we are now live streaming from our elections office in the ballot intake area. This is something that the county launched back in 2018, ahead of the primary, well ahead of current trends in other locations. I want to recognize our communications division and WCTV for their innovation. Note that other cities like Denver, LA, San Francisco are now taking advantage of the best practice. And she noted that care was given to the placement of those cameras so as not to make sure that the ballot identity is preserved. That's all I have for this morning, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I appreciate that. Commissioners, do I have anything that I have nobody way to sign in? Madam Vice Chair, you want to start? Would you like to kick it off?
I was just thinking to myself, how do I let him know?
Yeah, right. We got to go back to the old school.
Amazing how much we have become accustomed to electronics. So a couple of things I wanted to, I was in Incline Village yesterday having a meeting on some issues that relate to a number of different things, but certainly one that was of concern is COVID-19 and the fact that we in Washoe County are reporting our all-time high for known active cases and for the 5th straight day. So, you know, we all know that. And I know there's going to be a meeting with the governor's people on Thursday. But one of the questions that came up based on the ABC News last night, and again, I guess again this morning on CBS, is that Utah is now, their hospitals are now preparing for rationing healthcare, if you will. So because they're faced with a record number of the coronavirus patients and going into the ICU, the question is, if we have to ration healthcare, how do we do that? And I think that it's important for us to consider that as we're meeting with the governor on these various different issues. So I would appreciate that, Mr. Chair and Mr. Manager, if you guys would at least make sure that they're looking at that issue. If it's hitting Utah that hard, it could come that way to us. And then second, with the retirement of Judge Pete Safraza, and I understand that was announced by letter this morning. I haven't gotten through my email, but I understand that was announced by email this morning. I've been thinking about our Washoe County courts, and I'm concerned about the Second Judicial District Court, and we haven't heard from them since COVID started. I mean, I know that they made a presentation back really early on in the year. I wonder how they're doing. Are they having civil trials? Are they able to do jury trials? Do they need some help? And what about the specialty court? Because I guess Palaha is retiring also. So I wonder if we couldn't get another presentation from the courts so that we kind of get an idea about, are they in need of something? Do they need some help? Or, if they're getting through this COVID thing, fine. I want to go also on record and ask the district attorney regarding item 17. I am up for election, as you all know, and I have collected a check from Harris Ranch, and that's on our agenda on item 17 this morning. So, Mr. District Attorney, if you would let me know whether or not I need to recuse myself from the vote on that, I would appreciate it. The Harris Ranch did not max me out, so I didn't get a $10,000 check, but I did get a donation from them, so just getting on the record to make sure that we're okay on that. And then on the resolution in support, which is item 15, which is in support of the Governor's Bowl, and I believe we're putting item 15 into a block vote, but so I'll just go on the record now and say,
It's going to stay out.
what's the dollar figure attached to that? What's this going to cost the county? I think that's the county's already putting a significant amount of money. As I understand it, we've put $27 million into Record Street this year. And of course, we're putting money into It's Our Place. What is the cost associated to the county for resources and the need to purchase and put in another homeless center at the Governor's Bowl? So if we could get the figures on that, bring those figures to us, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's it for me.
All right, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm glad you brought up Pete Safraza, Judge Safraza. The first thing, I guess, I'll congratulate Pete. The real question is his seat, do we have to, because I didn't realize this, I don't think anybody's running against him, so we'll have to appoint that seat when the time comes.
Is he, because I think so.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, so
This board will.
let's get staff ready for that, and the judicial staff ready for that, and start ferreting out candidates, and figure out a timeline that's reasonable. I just have a couple of things in Spanish Springs. I'd still like to have staff bring back an issue with a stop sign at Dolores and Aaron. We have had significant speeds there. The sheriff went out, they posted a deputy. Things have slowed down, but it's only a matter of time before we have something, hopefully not horrific, but something else happen there. And then we've also got some issues on East Sky Ranch. I'd like to have staff do a speed study on the far end of East Sky Ranch. We have speed bumps on sort of we'll call it it's still East Sky Ranch, but it's the portion from Pyramid to Cordoba. Beyond Cordoba, the street narrows, and it's actually very, very treacherous through there. So I'd like to start working on some solutions there in hopes that we Mr. Chair, have some solutions through RTC for some funding mechanisms that were suggested during our last meeting. And that's all I have this morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hartung. I did receive, obviously, Commissioner, I did speak with Commissioner Jung, and she says she has nothing this morning to add. I did want to add a couple of things this morning. The vice chair did bring up some discussion about hospitals, and that being a concern for Incline Village. So I'd like to share, I did receive information as of this morning that was updated yesterday from the Nevada Hospital Association. Yes, we did have some alarming numbers last week in regards to ICU beds and some different percentages, but as of this morning, or as of yesterday, in Washoe County, 66% of our licensed beds were occupied, 79% of the staff beds were occupied. Out of those beds, the adult ICU beds occupied was 48% full in occupancy, and 20% of our ventilators were in use as of yesterday afternoon. Out of those cases, there was only 96 confirmed cases, and 30 of those being in the ICU. So relatively, we have seen ebbs and flows through this pandemic. That's very challenging for our hospitals, but in conversations with the leaders of those organizations, they are seeing and preparing for those. They do have plans, from my understanding, with those conversations with those leaders. So we will continue to monitor that. I think that's part of the discussion that we will have with the state on Thursday. As you alluded to, the governor did call a special meeting of the COVID-19 task force to discuss specifically Washoe County in our current situation and what I think our plans are going forward to address those. So we will, the manager and I had discussions about that yesterday in regards to what that would look like, and we'll be in concert with obviously our health district and our other municipalities to make sure that that plan is well received and understood, and so that we can provide some sort of confidence to the state that we are watching and paying attention and addressing this in a way, shape that is conducive for the community. So with that, and then I did want to make a note. I did get finally an opportunity since we've opened our place to go tour our place about 2.5 weeks ago. This is, like I said, this has been a major investment from this county. And I got to tell you, it is absolutely uplifting to see such a beautiful place and what this commission and what this county has put their time and effort into. To see the transformation that our CSD department, our human services, RISE, the organization that's helping manage, has really done to elevate the community there. It's been tremendous. We walked around, I got to tour the families. When anybody toured CAC previously, where the families previously were, the children had to recreate in between the two buildings on Record Street. It was just an alleyway with a piece of playground equipment on concrete. Now we have a beautiful outside playground. We have grass for the children. They have a beautiful daycare center that's protected. The families are tremendously well. I mean, the facility itself, they're very helpful. I was contacted by I had conversations with 2 or 3 of the ladies and families while I was up there, and they said this has been such a life-changing event for them, in the sense that one lady's had her first job in 10 years and feels safe and feels able to go to work and feels like her stuff won't be taken, and that she doesn't always have to kind of live in shifts, so to speak. Another came up and who has had a tremendous amount of mental challenges and issues over the years, felt for the first time safe and close enough to her treatment and to the counselors and her caseworkers that she's actually now seeking treatment. So I got to tell you, from my standpoint, this is a tremendous success for this county and what we can do and what we've done for homelessness. As the commissioner pointed out, We're going to talk about the Governor's Bowl later this morning, but you know, where are we getting the most bang for our buck? You know, how can we do this? And we've shown a professional model that does well, and I can see the actual successes from these individuals, and I'm thrilled. And I can't speak highly enough of what the success with how the community and the county has come together to really make this an overall success for us. So I look forward to more of those kind of opportunities through the county to continue to address the most vulnerable populations and those that are experiencing homelessness within our community. But I got to say, this is a great start for the county commission and the county as a whole. So thank you to all my colleagues for what you guys have supported over the last couple of years, because it is tremendous, and you guys are changing lives. So, and then one other thing I'd like to have a quick conversation about is the same thing that Commissioner Hartung brought up. I do want to have a conversation with NDOT and have them come in and discuss. I know, I think Elizabeth said that we're not going to have NDOT come and talk to each individual commissioner. They're going to come in and give a presentation on Spaghetti Bowl Express and what's going on there. The new Parr Boulevard bridge that was just launched or just reopened has some challenges. I went up and visited the sheriff, and as you come off, if you're heading northbound on 580 and get off on the off ramp and take that left to try to go to Parr Boulevard or to 911 Parr, I was sitting at the stop sign there, and it is not a lighted intersection, but it's just a stop sign, and the traffic comes through. I was watching a Subaru Outback to the left of me travel across the bridge and completely disappear behind the barrier wall. So you lose line of sight on that bridge because of geometry and because of that. And so want to have their engineers come out and explain to us, because I'm worried that we'll have sheriff's deputies and different things like that. It's only a matter of time before somebody gets T-boned there. And whether it's public, whether it's one of our staff, whether it's somebody, I think it's something to be considered. And then also continue to talk about, I'd like to hear what's going on with, I got some results from the Highway Patrol and DPS in regards to Mount Rose Highway, because that is a major thoroughfare for Incline Village and through a number of people along Mount Rose Highway. And we're seeing an increase of traffic that's, I think, related to COVID and people going to Incline and to the lake, and which brings me to my next conversation. This weekend, I went and spent some time in Truckee, and over my life, I've spent a lot of years in Truckee. About 20 years ago, when I was working up in that area, it is tremendously changed. There is so many people there now, and I think Vice Chair Burke-Bigler has brought this up a number of times, how dramatic it has been in change in Incline. And unless you go and actually experience it and visit it and see what's going on, I don't think you would truly understand. Just going to Truckee and seeing the massive influx of individuals there, of people who are trying to escape San Francisco or Sacramento or wherever, and come up to some of the more rural communities, it's just overwhelming. And so short-term rentals, I can imagine, is an issue. So definitely want to bring that back. Post-election, we'll have that conversation and see where we are with that, and get that moving. So it is a major issue. So those are the major things that I wanted to share with everybody. I don't have anything else, but that's all I have. Commissioner Jung, I have you signed in. Do you want to speak?
Yes, I just want to also talk about how much our approach to social services, and particularly those unsheltered families and more vulnerable women and seniors, whom we know from data are more likely to need more than a handout and more of a hand up. And that's really what the decision was made on creating our place, from our Human Services Director on up to Chair Lucy, the first time I ever heard about this, just to get on the record, was a lunch with a assistant county manager, the Health and Human Services director, and the chairman. I believe he was the chair at that point as well. And we had a lunch, and they laid out this grid and a mock-up, and I said, oh, no way, this is never going to work, right? Because we'd never looked at it in this way. And then they impressed upon me, and really the chair, because he had taken the time to educate himself on a very, very complex issue. And he lobbied me and showed me all the information and data. And then I went, why not? And of course it was a heavy lift because we didn't own the property. We were actually only betting on perhaps getting a lease at the property, if you remember this correctly, Mr. Chairman. And it has transformed into this. I have never toured it because, as you know, I will never go anywhere that's non-essential until there is a treatment or a vaccination available to this young woman right here and her fabulous family, especially her 84-year-old parents, who she has coffee with every morning 2 houses down. So we are our bubble. But I will tell you something, just looking at snippets online that social media that friends send me, because remember, I don't do any social, but people send me stuff and I can see videos here and there. I mean, we copied a lot of people, but we also did our own thing because every local policymaker has to look at what's going on locally rather than nationally, because it'll never fit. What happens in, Seattle doesn't fit in this community with weather and even culture. So I have to say, Mr. Lucy, we have to do something, this board of commissioners, to really honor that heavy lift from the commissioner on down to the staff, and then across this community with our partners, not just the 2 municipalities, but all the other people that are lifting us with this, the contractors. And I just hearing you say that, Mr. Commissioner, Chairman, Lucy, and I don't watch the video in real time. Remember, you guys, it gives me vertigo because there's a little delay. I can hear it in your voice, and it is such good news to hear that you are still engaged and you still believe in it, and you're still taking the risk to go and look at what I say to you, sir. You really did champion this. You didn't create it because it took this whole board to trust you, and this whole board sitting here today, including Commissioner Herman, who isn't here. I think we all kind of looked at each other with our eyes rose, like, and we did it. And we trusted you. And the outcome of that, just hearing you talk about it again, I haven't seen it. It just is exactly what I needed to hear today. And I also believe it's exactly what the taxpayers needed to hear today. So I thank you, especially as we're getting into the cold months. I thank you so much, Commissioner Lucy and Madam Megan Lucy, because she works at the other end. They're their own children's cabinet, folks. She works at the other end in getting children who are no longer in custody of their biological parents, their birth parents. She gets them permanent homes with families and permanent adoption. So my hat's off, and thanks for bringing that up. Very, very well done. And I got to say, Commissioner Hartung, Commissioner Burke-Bigler, and Commissioner Herman, thank you, too, for trusting him, because I was a little, too. So that is everybody's gift to the world, and I am so proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner John. I appreciate it. And one other thing is, ever since Manager Brown has come on, there has been an absolute powerhouse in himself pushing this issue and has really helped get the doors open. Kate Thomas, I mean, there has been a number of individuals who have really stepped forward. And the manager sees how much vulnerable people, the populations here in the community are affected, and has done a ton of work, tireless hours to really address the situation. And so, I mean, Manager Brown has been phenomenal in this issue. I can't say enough. But bringing Karma Box and Grant Denton and a number of individuals to address these things as we move forward through it. So once again, I think this is really proof in the pudding of that the county is truly stepping forward as a leader to address these major social issues within our community. So I want to thank the commission and Commissioner Jung. Thank you for the kind comments. Those are not warranted, but thank you for those anyways. Madam Vice Chair, I had you signed in again. Did you, something else you want to say? You were waving to me, so I wasn't sure. Was it STRs?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a point about the STRs, and, you know, I think that it is, you're exactly right, Mr. Chair, that it is becoming more and more of a problem with the influx of COVID. But the problem exists and has existed, and I had the opportunity to have a conversation with our manager this morning, and I really think where we're at right now is the county has to decide what it wants to do with regard to a community like Incline Village. And I know I represent that area, so, you know, it's important. But I know there are other areas in our valley that, in the Truckee Meadows, that are dealing with this issue also. But, I mean, I think we have to decide whether we want these communities to continue to be communities where people live, work, raise their children, retire, or whatever, or whether we want them to simply be nothing more than a vacation destination. And that's a decision the county commission is going to have to make, because if we want it to continue on as a community where people live and work and play, we are going to have to put some regulations in place and some ordinances in place to protect the community from this influx. Because frankly, in my opinion, this is only going to get worse. I don't think COVID is going away for at least another year. Many are saying 18 months still before we are really comfortable that we have enough vaccine for everybody. And so we're going to be dealing with this issue for some time, and that means people are going to continue to come to our beautiful mountain areas and our nice valley to get away from the heavy population areas. And so I think it's extremely important for us to really look at this issue as we move throughout the rest of this year and into next year. Thank you.
You know, and one last thing I want to do before we get right into item 5 too, is one thing I'd like to do is have, speaking of legislative, one of the things that Commissioner Jung spurred out of my mind is I'd like to get a legislative update from our legislative liaison and get prepared. I know getting through next week is going to be a big week for all of us here at the county, and just trying to make sure that we get through elections, and COVID's been overwhelming, but we cannot forget that we have a legislative session starting February of the 1st of February next year. And so this board needs to be prepared for what that looks like. So I'd like to get, I know I've been working with Jamie Rodriguez, our legislative liaison. She has a report for us to present to I'd like to have her get on an agenda, Mr. Manager, and have her come and present to the board and talk about legislative issues going forward so that we can discuss that and what we're looking at. So other than that, I have nothing. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to touch back on NDOT. You guys have covered a lot of great things. I know we're going to have some conversations here in a few minutes on some other stuff, which I want to chime in on. But for now, you and I got, I'll call it invited to have a discussion about the ASWS project, which is the Advanced Signal Warning System revamp, which will affect both north and south. So once we sort of get done with those meetings, I'd really like to have more of a public conversation from the county's perspective, not just from RTC's perspective.
Yeah, and the ASWS system, they're actually going to come and present here on that topic to us as a group, so we can have that conversation in public. So I think we will be able to, I think it's good, I think it's a better opportunity for all the commissioners to have that discussion and really frame our discussions ahead of that. So that will be, we'll get that on the agenda for sure.
Yeah, and
So-
I'm terribly concerned with the inconsistencies right now.
I would agree with you. All right, anything further, Commissioner? All right, seeing none, we will close Commissioner and County Manager's announcement. And Mr. Manager, we're on to item 5, sir.
Mr. Chair, before we do that, just one update on the question of the cost of the Governor's Bowl. We're still working with the city of Reno. As you may know, negotiations are going on. The number that's been shared with us so far is $12.4 million. Of that, $2.9 million would be the county's share. But that's not a final number. That was the latest that was shared with CHAB and with the jurisdictions about a week ago. And I'd also like to, just on our place, the credit really belongs to Amber Howell, Director of a Human Services Agency. I've never seen someone who has invested themselves and her team as much in the development of that facility. They're passionate about it, and it's just remarkable what they've done, along with Kate Thomas, the Assistant County Manager, who's working on that. They deserve the credit. We'll move on to number 5, Mr. Chair, if that's okay.
Perfect.
All right, number 5 is an appearance by Ben West, who's the Washoe County Administrator for Security Administrator, for discussion and presentation related to the security measures and planning of voting locations throughout Washoe County. Mr. West, and I believe he may also be joined virtually by someone from the Washoe County Sheriff's Office.
That is correct, Mr. Manager. We will be joined this morning, I believe, by Deputy Herrera. He's on Zoom for us, but we will start with Mr. West. Hello,
Good
sir.
morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As we're all aware, the culture surrounding this year's election season, as well as the challenges presented by COVID-19, have made this a unique election for everyone. Wanted to go over how we've prepared for this election season, the timeline, and some of the things that we have in place to try and make this safe, secure, and available for all of our voters. Meetings with the Registrar of Voters and Allied Universal Security started as far back as February this year in preparation for the election season. We then went into meetings with the Sheriff's Office this summer to start planning and coordinating between the Sheriff's Office, our other local law enforcement agencies, and the county. Some of the things that we've put in place as a result of those meetings, I'm monitoring information from Security Industry Resources, the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the Northern Nevada Regional Intelligence Center at the Sheriff's Office. I'm in contact with them on a regular basis. Coming up closer to the election, I worked with the Sheriff's Office, Allied Universal Security, and the Registrar of Voters. We've created a resource guide for our election poll managers. And what that resource guide provided for them was an easy guide that was created specifically for each polling location that provides them with information on what to do in different circumstances, such as suspicious items, a medical emergency, fire, what the evacuation procedures would be for them to safely get everyone out of the locations, as well as make sure that we secure the voting information so that we can keep that information safe. Those guides include specific information on the top of each guide for who the law enforcement agency is for that location, non-emergency numbers as well as 911, and how to contact those different locations, law enforcement agencies in the event that there's an incident. I think importantly, we also included on these guides what are the protected activities at a voting location. So we have information on there about protected activities surrounding free speech, photography and video, open carry, other things that our polling managers might not be familiar with on a day-to-day basis so that they feel comfortable managing those locations. Allied Universal, through our contract, their daytime patrol officers are regularly checking polling locations to monitor them, make sure that there's no threats to public safety or other suspicious activity going on, and will report that to the Sheriff's Office if anything is found. Myself, I'm in daily contact with Registrar of Voters and our communications team on information that they're receiving, questions they're receiving from the public, and helping to answer those questions. For Election Day, security preparations are in place with Washoe County Sheriff's Office and Allied Universal Security. That includes monitoring of polling locations throughout the day and reporting to the Sheriff's Office anything that may be found. Also, Washoe County Sheriff's Office and Allied Universal will be on site here at the administrative complex all day on Election Day for last-minute voters on Election Day, as well as the collection of polling information at the end of the evening and its safe delivery here to Ninth and Wells for counting. Additionally, I have monitored a number of our early voting locations in person, along with members of the county manager's office. This is anecdotal information, but I've been to about a half dozen different polling locations and spoken personally with our polling location managers. And they all feel that they've been provided with the information that they need to handle incidents that are likely to arise, and have also answered questions for them surrounding COVID-19 and other things that they may run into. That's all I have for now. I'm open to any questions that you may have, and would be also happy to let the sheriff's office answer any questions or share any information specific to law enforcement.
Great, thank you, Mr. West. We'll come right back to you. Deputy Herrera, can you hear us? Chief Deputy, we got you? It looked like you froze up on us.
No, he's there.
You got us now?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, Chief Deputy. How are you, sir?
Very well, sir. Thank you.
The floor is yours. Would you like to add anything additional?
Absolutely. First of all, I would like to thank Ben West and the Registrar of Voters for the excellent communication. As he said, we've had a number of meetings in preparation, and they've also provided that resource guide, which we turned into some training that's been conducted during briefing training. So our deputies are equipped with not only the polling sites, but the legal aspects, so they can go to these incidents if there are any, equipped with the law and de-escalate when needed. Just to add to that, we're going to have on election day some extra staffing that will be roving. Our intelligence center will be staffed throughout the day into the night, and any incidents were reported. They're in constant communication with the Fusion Center down south for any similarities. And then, like Ben stated, we'll have security there at the at 9th and Wells complex, as well as traffic control. And we'll have a number of resources out there for any incident response, along with some undercover assets just doing monitoring. So I think we have a well-equipped action plan, which I'd be happy to share with the staff as well.
Great. Thank you, Chief Deputy. We appreciate it. Commissioners, are there any questions for either the administrator, security administrator, or the Chief Deputy? No, thank you, everybody. I appreciate all the work and time that you guys have worked with the Registrar of Voters. Mr. West, I know you and your staff have done a wonderful job thus far, along with the Sheriff's Office. I've heard multiple reports across the valley at our early polling locations and voter drop-off or ballot drop-off locations, that the security has been tremendous and inviting and friendly, and making sure that everything remains calm. As we move through the next 7 days, it's going to be unique. We only have those locations open until Friday. We'll close Saturday through Monday. And then we will have, obviously, Election Day voting at all of our locations. So with that, I think that you have done a wonderful job, and I really do appreciate all the work that you have put into it, and the organization with the Registrar of Voters. So seeing no questions, thank you, Mr. West. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Manager, we're on to item 6.
Item 6 is a...
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
That was an action item, and I may have missed you calling for public comment, and if I did, I apologize.
No, you didn't, sir, and we didn't. I did not recognize that it was for action. I apologize. All right, seeing that is for action, we won't take action as a board, but was there any public comment?
There was no public comment on
Seeing
item 5.
Thank you, Mr. Wattsfield, for catching that for me. All right, Mr. Manager, we're now on to item 6. This is a discussion, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Item 6 is a discussion and recommendation to accept a presentation from staff on providing an update on the CARES Act federal assistance of coronavirus relief fund allocation from the state of Nevada's Governor's Finance Office.
Right, and I believe you will be presenting for this morning.
If I may go down front.
You're more than welcome to go down front, or you can stay right there, whichever you choose, sir.
I'd rather go down.
All right.
There's a clicker down here.
No, that's right, we do have that. Got to walk to the technology now.
Mr. Chair, for the record, this presentation has been added
To the record?
online.
Perfect. So it is online for those to review and will be placed on the record for the minutes. Smith?
Okay, for the
Welcome.
record, Eric Brown, County Manager, and I have an update for you on our plans for allocation of the Washoe County CARES funding. As I think the commissioners all know, our region received a total of $86.1 million in CARES Act allocation. You can see how that was broken out between the City of Reno, Washoe County, and the City of Sparks. I might also mention this does not include additional CARES Act funding that was allocated for the health district or for the school district. But these were the allocations for the 3 municipalities, with Washoe County receiving an allocation of $20.2 million, or about 24% of the total. In terms of the cost share, we entered into an incident command structure shortly after the pandemic broke in March. I think the interlocal agreement was actually signed in April. And that allowed us the ability to share some expenses that were COVID-related. The regional expenses during that March through June period, which was prior to when the CARES Act funding was made available, was about $7.8 million. And you can see there that our original interlocal agreement under the IMT structure allocated 50% of that cost to the county, 35% to the City of Reno, 15% to the City of Sparks, and you see how those numbers break out. I would also point out that the county has submitted to FEMA about $9 million in total requests. So part of that are shared costs that you see here, but in addition, there were some dedicated costs that were borne only by the county that have been submitted to FEMA for approval. Now, at the time that we submitted those requests, we were led to believe that FEMA was fast-tracking payment for COVID-related expenses as within 30 days or so. But we have not had our submissions approved, although we've been advised they're at the final stages of approval. Just bear in mind that there's $9 million out there that we're waiting for reimbursement. Under the Unified Command, you can see these are the major categories of usage of that $7.3 million. As you all know, we set up alternative housing at the Edison compound. That was the largest allocation of the expenditure. We had incident management team expenditures. The Post, which was our testing site here, primarily at 9th Street, but also in other locations around the county. And then alternative care was the additional site that we set up at the convention center that thankfully we did not have to use. But those were the major uses of the shared expenses that comprise the $7.3 million. When the CARES Act funding, we were notified of the $20.2 million in CARES Act funding for the county in June. We were given an opportunity to apply for it in 2 disbursements. The first was a $10.1 million disbursement for anything that we had spent up until that point. So you can see that internal expenses were about $4.1 million. There was another $5.9, under $6 million in regional expenses. We received that initial allocation from the state of Nevada in August of this year. So that was the initial 10.1. Of that 10.1, you can see how the uses in terms of how those expenditures broke out. The biggest category for us was public health causes. So the quarantine facility, personal and protective equipment, IMT expenses, homelessness expenses. When I say homelessness expenses, these are expenses that the county incurred to put in place social distancing and other requirements to protect those populations, public outreach, and UNR wastewater study. The second biggest category was health compliance. So This was food access and delivery services. This was expenses to set up teleworking for county employees, as well as the jail sanitation and social distancing in our detention facility. Our medical expenses included testing expenses, contact tracing, alternative medical care, alternate medical care, and then payroll were those reimbursable expenses primarily for public safety and first responders. And then economic support, as you all know, we're implementing a small business assistance program that's in place currently. The second allocation, which can be drawn down based on submission of actual expenses. Again, homelessness and human services will be the largest category. So that includes that 2.9 million, Commissioner, that I talked about earlier, that are COVID-related expenses associated with the Governor's Bowl, as well as additional Our Place expenses we may incur to assist with the Reno Large Shelter and temporary winter shelter expenses, as well as human services payroll costs to provide support services. Our public health and safety personnel costs are the next largest category at about 2.5 million. That includes contact tracing for the Washoe County School District, as well as quarantine facilities, community safety campaign, and other expenses. And then 1.7 million for technology and telework equipment. So this was one of the areas where, as we have moved to teleworking arrangements for county employees, we found that our technology systems were inadequate to support that. So we've had to upgrade our laptops, our servers, our infrastructure, because a lot of the infrastructure we had, although adequate under the old paradigm, really wasn't designed to handle the amount of activity that we're seeing now remotely across the county. Our regional PPE supply, so we've made a purchase on behalf of all of the jurisdictions. That 1.2 million is the county share of that. And then justice and courts, we've had to make some major investments to reconfigure our court infrastructure to accommodate social distancing, and as well as technology to expand our ability to do remote hearings and trial activities that don't require them to be done on site. This is the timeline. We're actually not taking any additional requests for COVID-related expenses after November 2nd, which is next week. We're at the point in time where we need to focus on execution of the initiatives that we have in front of us, making sure that they happen. As you all know, we need to spend the money by December 30th. So our focus will be on making sure that we're executing those initiatives that we've identified, and we get them done in a timely manner. And you can see down at the bottom some of the key elements in terms of eligibility. It has to be necessary, and the expenses have to be necessary and specific to COVID-19 pandemic. Has to be a connection there. Number two, they can't have a current funding source, so you're not allowed to basically take budgeted items and just reassign them for COVID expenditures. And then goods and services must be purchased following the federal purchasing requirements and and they have to actually be put into service or being utilized by December 30th. Those are all items that we're working with the other jurisdictions and across our departments to make sure that we're in compliance. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Appreciate it. Any questions for the manager? Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Manager, I have a few questions. So I know we're participating in temporary housing because of distancing requirements. Where are we with trying to get some of that stuff set up? I mean, it's absolutely necessary. I mean, if you go outside in the evenings or the mornings, it doesn't take long to figure out that our most vulnerable populations are living that
Yeah.
24/7.
Yes, Commissioner. So you're referring to the homeless housing?
Yes, temporary, just the temporary warming facilities.
Yes, the temporary shelter is in place on 4th Street. There are heaters that have been installed as well, so that is in place. What is now being worked on is the more permanent solution,
Okay.
which, if negotiations are successful, would be the Governor's Bowl or
Right.
some other location. But the temporary shelter
And-
for the men is in place. I will point out to you that, as the chair knows, we've, with regards to our place, which is housing the women and families,
Yes.
we're actually exploring or pursuing additional shelter facilities to those that were originally leased. And in large part, that is due to the social distancing requirements, as well as anticipated growth in those populations that we expect to see.
And this is exactly why, Mr. Manager, I begged NDOT to give us the old DMV
Yes.
site, because there was no shovel that had to be put in the ground. It was really ready. We could have morphed it into an instant site, and I'm still disappointed that those talks didn't go further. On another point, small business assistance with PPE and potentially reopening plans. We're only spending $500,000 on that?
Yes, Commissioner, that was the request that the commission gave staff at the beginning of the CARES Act funding allocation. So, and I will say to you that we're about 5 or 6 weeks into this, and it's been slow in terms
Okay.
of the enrollment in it. I think we're at about $85,000 thus far.
Okay, all right. That helps me understand better, because to me, that's an essential. We've got to get people back to work. I know our unemployment is lower than in Southern Nevada. We kind of get lumped into the whole group, but we still got people who really have some need out there.
Right.
Okay, all right, I've got some other questions, but I'll let other commissioners step in. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So where is the Edison property right now?
Edison property, where the trailers that we leased for a 6-month period, starting in, I'm going to say April, that lease is up. So the property, the trailers have been decommissioned and returned to the vendor. So it's
Okay.
gone.
Okay, and so the temporary shelter that's up on 4th Street right now, is that going to replace the tent we used to put up every winter for overflow protection? Or are we going to have to do a tent also?
For the men, yes, it will take care of the needs for the men that were down on Record Street. But again, it isn't the permanent solution. as
Right,
I mentioned
yes, of
earlier.
course. Yeah. Well, every winter, we've had to put up a tent, and we were hoping, of course, with our place not to have to do that this year, but then COVID came along, and lots of other factors have been going on, so I think, so essentially, we think between our place and the potential expansion of those, I think there's 2 extra buildings there.
Yes.
And the facility that's, the tent facility with the heaters that's already set up, and the Record Street facility, we think we're going to have enough space to take care of people when the weather starts snowing and turns really cold.
We
Not that
do.
it wasn't really cold yesterday, but,
We do, but I remind everyone the pandemic continues.
Yes.
And every month, you have additional populations that are out of work, not able to pay their rent and mortgage, so we continue to monitor.
so one last question. Have you heard anything out of our DC representatives as to whether or not there's a chance we'll see another CARES Act, if you will, come out of Congress this year?
I have not heard anything recently. I think everyone's waiting until after Tuesday to see what the outlook looks like.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Jung, I have you up next.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Manager, for the update. I have 2 points to make. Commissioner Hartung mentioned bare dirt and if anybody needing that, and how much he has done a lot of lift on trying to get us space that the RTC owns but doesn't use, the Edison campus. I mean, he has pointed out a lot of places that we have bare dirt and bare land, and we also have bare dirt, I believe, from one of the tours I did, is that we have bare dirt at the sheriff's office in terms of the land that's there. So if that's the issue for warming tents and the need to put them through, in different areas in the community to social distance, we might want to look at that, Mr. Manager. And then if we have this $500,000 that we can't even give away to businesses here to apply for it, is there any way we could take that $500,000 and give it to either the unemployment fund or a bridge fund? Is there any capacity in using that money in a more immediate turnaround? And I don't know, because I haven't received a lot of data that I've asked for about this, but I would really like to, and that's not anybody's fault right now. I also didn't follow up and say, no, this is not what I wanted, but I think, never mind, just move on with that. There might be a way we can get that money into the hands of people in the unincorporated Washoe County, if that's one of the requirements that we could identify and target that could work under those federal mandates. Because I imagine if we're experiencing some issues with being able to disperse said money, and by the way, the money, that's all of our money, all of our income tax money that we pay into to the feds. Is there a way to get that out immediately and quick to unincorporated county businesses or entities that affects them individually? So I would just like staff to come back, with what does qualify and what's the wiggle room and what are other states doing. This is where NACO should be helping us, and as well as our federal legislators. So that's my 2 points of that. And listen, I also understand you steer the ship, Mr. Manager. We just give you sometimes great ideas. I don't know. Maybe that's the worst idea ever. So I acquiesce to what you need to do and what this board decides to do with it. But if we can get creative, let's do it. If it's not worth the time and the energy and there's a better pivot, let's do that too. It's just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. I would say we are continuing to look at the criteria that are being used to allow folks to opt into the Business Assistance Fund. This is not dissimilar, by the way, to the experience of other communities, including our friends down in Southern Nevada who had similar programs. The uptake is not as immediate as you might think. So we're going to continue to evaluate it. And I would say to you that if it looks like the $500,000 isn't going to be fully utilized, this is one of many expenses. Between now and the end of the year, we're going to continually, as in daily and weekly, have to evaluate whether or not a planned expenditure should be reallocated to something else. The something else will likely be in the homelessness category and in the contact tracing / testing category, because those are the two categories of expenditures that have been the most variable. And so we will be happy to come back and give you another update in a couple of weeks. But that's where we are today, and we'll continue to evaluate it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of other things that Commissioner Jung kicked off in my mind. We have had several people apply for some of the money, I know, from Incline Village, and so we have allocated some out, I know.
Yes.
I think 9 people or something like that, 9 different businesses.
And I believe Incline Village is probably utilized more than any other part of the county.
Yeah, probably. And so I know we are giving some out, but of course, we are dealing with the issue, and I'm glad to hear you say that if we have to reallocate, and, you know, we might do that, if we have to reallocate, that we would reallocate it to the homeless and additional contact tracing. But I am curious how the city of Reno is doing and the city of Sparks. I know they also set money aside into that. Have you heard a report from them on how they're doing, and would it benefit if we opened it up to businesses that are not in the unincorporated county, but in one of the cities?
The last conversation I had with my counterparts last week, Commissioner, they were seeing similarly slow uptake.
Okay.
But as you know, they have particularly the city of Reno has a much larger business community. Their expenditures are much higher than ours, but versus what they originally thought, it's been slow.
Okay. Good. And then one last question. I wonder how the rural counties are doing, and maybe that would be something that should go to the chair, since he's working directly with NACO, and I know you are also. But how are the rural counties doing, and what happens to the funds that don't get spent? Do we know, have we had a conversation with the governor's team about reallocating that to other things that we might need in the 2 larger counties?
What I can share with you, Commissioner, is that we've been, let me back up. So last Friday, or a week ago Friday, I gave a presentation, the same presentation to the legislative subcommittee, which has oversight over COVID-19 expenditures. One of their points was to make sure all municipalities that testified understood that if you don't spend your money, the state at some point will come look to reallocate those funds to somebody else that needs it.
Okay, good.
So we're very focused on making sure that, first of all, Washoe County spends the allocation that we've received. Reno and Sparks are of the same mind. And I would say if we can, as we do that, if we identify that there are additional needs that we're not able to cover within the 20.2 in our case, we would make a request for consideration for additional funding. So for instance, if you look at the caseload right now of new COVID cases, it's at an all-time high here in the county. That means our contact tracing workload is higher than it's ever been. You know, at some point, we may have to go back to the state and see if we can get some additional funding to address that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Harton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Manager, and this was something that I was going to touch on, and I'm glad Commissioner Jung brought this up. With respect to, you know, open dirt, the Flood Management Authority has given the ability to the executive director of the Flood Management Authority, the board has given the ability to use that property to give it in temporary usage to anyone who would you know, like to use it, other entities, whether it be the city of Reno, the sheriff's office, Washoe County. So we still have options out on Edison if we need to put up some temporary shelter tents, because we can't get everybody into the tents that we're currently planning. But beyond that, if we're not able to spend all of this money, can we use this for rental assistance or mortgage assistance? It's much cheaper to keep someone in their home than it is to have them lose their home, their house goes on the market, or in a rental, than it is to put them in one of our shelters. Because
Understood, Commissioner, and again, we'll continue to reassess. With regards to business assistance, again, all 3 jurisdictions have programs in place, and you know, there's only so much you can do to pursue businesses that are eligible under the guidelines, as well as far as rental or mortgage assistance. Reno Housing Authority has separate funding that's been made available for the region to address those needs. But those are things that we can certainly explore the other jurisdictions.
Keeping people in their houses, again,
Understood.
is absolutely a better solution. Get them over the hump rather than putting them through this mill of homelessness and then trying to get them back into an apartment or a rental of some sort. I don't know what the parameters are. I don't know what the restrictions are, in other words. But it seems to me that because this is COVID related, some of these folks have lost their jobs, are unable to make their payments, and so to me that's an absolutely valid and permissible use. Now I don't know, maybe the lawyers will say differently, and maybe the state will say differently, but my goodness, if we've still got money, let's try to get it into the hands of people who really need it.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Mr. Manager, obviously, as the CARES funds are directly supposed to be supportive of the Corona or COVID-19 support effort, one thing this commission has talked about a number of times and has asked and directed staff to move forward with was messaging. And I know your staff has been working on that, and that rollout is coming. We have seen what that looks like. But as you look at our current COVID-19 dashboard and you look at the actual zip codes where are the greatest impacted, it's zip codes of 89502, which we've had, Commissioner Jung and I have done a number of deals with in regards to the 89502 project. It's a public health issue that we outreach, and so 89502 needs to be addressed. 89431 in Sparks, kind of the urban area of Sparks, and then 89512. All three of those are our largest areas that have the most impact from COVID-19. Right. And so when you look at those areas, I think it's important that we do massive outreach, because not only are they impactful to our community, but it's also, we just need to get the messaging out to everybody in that community. And I think to Commissioner Hartung's point, if we need to keep these people, the problem that we see is that so many individuals, because of cost of living, because of the increased real estate costs, people are being pushed out of their homes, which are making, they have to rely on living with family members, maybe not prepared to live with family members, or not have a suitable dwelling that would be able to cohabitate a number of people that that we're seeing, and so which will propagate the continued spread of the disease if we continue to massively put these people together. So I think to Commissioner Hartung's point, that's part of the massive outreach we need to do, but we also need to contact them about testing, self-evaluation, how to quarantine, within your community, within your body. So I'd like to see that outreach get going as soon as possible. The other thing I want to bring to the attention of the commission and to you, in conversations with the sheriff in regards to dispatch and crime lab, we've seen a massive uptick of phone calls, and not only to Washoe 311, but to 911. There was a request from the sheriff to add a 911 call taker. Which would be 24 hours a day, 7 days. So it would take about five bodies to do so. That request is about $600,000. So I'd like to bring that request forward. I know you said we're not looking at, but for $600,000 to employ individuals that directly are on the front line, that take phone calls, that direct them, I think that's a worthy cost to get that online and get those 911 call takers online as soon as possible. So if we can look at that and allocate some money for that, I would be supportive of that. But those are my only two discussions, is about the rollout of the messaging and that, the call takers. And then I'd like to continue to work with the Washoe County Health District and find out what we can do to be more robust with the contact tracing. I know you and I have had discussions about platforms, technology platforms, so that we can be interwork with Southern Nevada. I know that the challenge is that the current platforms, technology platforms, are not functional, and we're continuing to work with the state, but want to make sure that we have funds available at the manager's disposal, so that if those decisions come up, that with platforms that we can move quickly on that. So I think that would be of benefit as well.
Right.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very quickly, has there been an in-depth discussion on why those particular three zip codes are the zip codes that we've had the highest issues of health issues? I mean, is it because they're more compact, because they're lower income, a higher income? Is there anybody looking at how, so it kind of gives us an idea of what we need to look at as we move through this disease in the future? Yeah, what's the demographic?
Well, what we do know is that the Latino community is overrepresented in terms of infected populations. And we also know that the 18 to 29 age group is our fastest growing area. And so the outreach campaign, which got underway last week with a soft launch with social media, will focus on those two areas. So there is Spanish language media, whether it's radio and others, that will be focused on the message around masking, social distancing, addressing multi-generational households, and particularly as we head into Thanksgiving and the holidays. And then with the younger audience, I think it will help that UNR, under President Sandoval's leadership, is sending the kids home after Thanksgiving break. But those are the two areas that we've been focused on from a media and outreach standpoint, more so than focusing on specific zip codes. But that's something that I'll take up with the comm team, Mr. Chair, and we'll see if there's more that can be done.
All right. Any other comments by the commissioners? Commissioner Jung, do you have anything?
I think that I am so proud of you, all of you, Mr. Brown especially, for having all this data at your fingertips, Mr. Brown. I don't know how you hold all that, and I really appreciate the deep dive that this whole commission has done, and the chair, on being able to be so targeted. This is exactly what the best practices are from the CDC, and that is really what I believe this commission has tried to champion, is a little bit more local control, so that we do have these experts spitting out the data and knowing how to target, and that we can keep COVID, because as the vice chairwoman said, we're going to have this for a while, and to keep the COVID from being a roaring forest fire into these flare-ups that we can manage and shift and do government on real time, rather than, well, we have to have a meeting, we have to post it in, you guys know how that works. So I got to say, while this has not been lovely, as we know, for really anybody, it has really flexed a new direction that government can go in and make these on-the-spot decisions, because we trust our county manager and our chairperson to look at the data and go, okay, yep, when it's not a policy level or, all the legal things that they have to do. I'm not saying anything open meeting law, Mr. Wattsfield. What I'm saying is that I think we've done a good job. I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, because Lord knows, who knows what we have in the future, but I think it's turned into kind of what we've always wanted as commissioners. All of us are long-term commissioners now, which was a more quick responsiveness with resources to get a hold of things before they become an epidemic at the local level. So good presentation, good carrying out of, trying to do the best we can with as the new information rolls in. And thank goodness we can get real information in real time. So then that goes to infrastructure and all the good things commissioners before us invested money in as well. So well done. Great report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jen. All right, thank you, Mr. Manager, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This discussion is for possible action. I think we gave the manager plenty of direction today, so there's no need to take for action. But do we have public comment, Madam
We
Clerk?
do not have public comment.
All right, seeing no public comment, we will close this item and move on. We are on to item 7, and Mr. Manager.
Item 7 is an appearance by Heather Korbelik, Executive Director of Silver State Health Exchange, to discuss the FY21 program planning.
All right, Ms. Korbelik, welcome. You're joining us via Zoom today. Thank you. It's nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm Heather Korbulik. I'm the Executive Director of the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange, which is the state agency that runs and operates the online marketplace known as Nevada HealthLink. I'm going to share my screen. Give me one moment. So as I said, I'm the director of the state agency that runs and operates our online marketplace known as Nevada HealthLink. We are the only place in the state that certifies and facilitates the sale of Affordable Care Act compliant health insurance. So we are the only place that consumers in Nevada can get federal tax credits to help them offset the monthly costs of their premiums. I'm here today because I could really use the Commission's assistance in getting the word out to Washoe County residents. We know that there are many different areas of Washoe County, I'll show you another map, that have enrollees, but we know that there are about 100,000 Nevadans statewide, this was pre-pandemic, that were uninsured, and we know that that number has increased dramatically as our unemployment numbers have gone up. So we're really looking for the Commission's assistance in making sure that we get the word out to Washoe County residents about our upcoming open enrollment period that starts on November 1st. Nevada HealthLink primarily services residents who do not have employer-sponsored coverage, who aren't on Medicare or Medicaid. So this is anybody who's an individual working for themselves. We are targeting heavily this year self-employed or people who have multiple jobs. We're also looking to ensure consumers who are over 26 who are no longer on their parents' insurance. We have a lot of consumers who are over the age of 50 but not yet eligible for Medicare. And then of course we are targeting all multicultural ethnicities. Nevada HealthLink, and this is something that's in the news a lot these days, is the Affordable Care Act compliant plans cover all 10 essential health benefits. Of course, that includes emergency services, hospitalization, but it also includes things like lab services and mental health services. And specific to the pandemic period, we are, all of the plans on Nevada HealthLink cover the testing and the care of any COVID-related diagnoses. Coverage cannot be denied on Nevada HealthLink because of a pre-existing condition. As we're well aware, because of our political discourse, that conversation is happening in the Supreme Court and at a federal level. But as for now and for Plan Year 21, which starts on January 1st, none of our plans can discriminate based on any pre-existing condition of any Nevadan. Over 80% of the people on Nevada HealthLink qualify for federal subsidies. So these are dollars that help them to pay for their monthly premium costs. And depending on your income range, you can also get assistance with your out-of-pocket costs like deductibles and copays. It's always a good idea to have health insurance regardless of your age or your income or your health status, but pandemics are a particularly important time to have insurance. We are targeting individuals who have recently lost their job, not only because it's open enrollment November 1st through January 15th, but because anybody who has lost access to their employer-sponsored coverage now has a special enrollment period. So if you've lost coverage within the last 60 days, you're eligible for a special enrollment period, and you can get insured for plan year 2020, which would end at the end of this year. We're really excited. Actually, there's some pretty good news about Nevada HealthLink for this upcoming plan year. We have 2 additional carriers who have joined the exchange. So we'll be, the returning carriers that will be in Washoe County are Health Plan of Nevada, Silver Summit, and Anthem. And then our new carriers are Friday Health Plans and Select Health. Friday will be joining Washoe County. Select is just in Clark County. We have almost doubled the plans that are available to consumers to choose from. So we have 50 qualified health plans. We also have seen really moderate rate increases, so only a 4.2% increase. What's most important for constituents to know is if you're eligible for subsidy assistance, those 80% of our consumers, those increases in rates will hardly, if any, impact your pocketbook because the subsidies increase too. So like I said multiple times, our open enrollment period begins on November 1st. It runs through January 15th. Anybody who's enrolled by December 31st will have a coverage start date of January 1st. And if you enroll between January 1st and the 15th, your start date will be February 1st. We are just like any other business navigating COVID and this landscape. And so we've really engaged a network across the state of over 700 brokers and navigators who are licensed and certified to help with the enrollment of health insurance on Nevada HealthLink. All of them are able to do virtual enrollments or over the telephone. Some of them are doing Zoom meetings, some are doing FaceTime, but all of them have the ability to do a virtual enrollment. Some of our storefronts will be open, and of course they will be following CDC guidelines in terms of keeping people safe and protecting the health and well-being. So one thing that we have seen is some fraudulent actors who are trying to convince people that they need to purchase additional insurance in order to have coverage for COVID-19. I just want to reiterate all of the plans on Nevada HealthLink for this year, 2020 and 21, cover testing for COVID and any of the care that's associated with it. Nevada HealthLink is available to help you. We want you to stay covered. So if you've lost income, now is not a good time to go without insurance. And in fact, if you've lost income, you're likely eligible for more subsidy assistance. So please call us before you cancel your plans. We can make sure to connect you with something that's right for you and your pocketbook. Again, this is our open enrollment period. We have window shopping up and available. And of course, we start on Sunday, which is a fallback Sunday. And we're really looking forward to another productive year and your assistance in making sure that Washoe County residents understand the importance of getting coverage, especially considering the pandemic period. Happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you so much for having me.
Ms. Korblick, thank you. We appreciate you participating. Is there any questions for Ms. Korblick this morning? All right. Heather, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and we will help you as much as we can make sure that people understand open enrollment and get them available for the Nevada HealthLink. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Ms. Korbulik's presentation has been placed online and will be put into the record.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This item was for discussion only, so we will move on. And so we are on to item 8A. Mr. Manager.
8A is proclaim October 2020 as an Infant Safe Sleep Month.
Perfect. And I believe, Madam Vice Chair, you have that proclamation. So will you please read that for us?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair, and I want to make note that Ryan from HSA is here and will be making a few comments also. I want to take the opportunity to thank the Nevada Rainbow Girls for their generous donation, which will be used to help children at the Kids Cottage. We appreciate your help in supporting and serving our most vulnerable citizens. So here's our proclamation. Whereas unsafe sleep practices are one of the leading causes of death among otherwise healthy infants under the age of 1 in Washoe County. And whereas there have been 23 infant deaths in Washoe County from fiscal years 2016 to 2020 due to unsafe sleep situations. And whereas babies can suffocate as a result of sleeping in an adult bed or on other dangerous sleep surfaces such as couches, armchairs, or pillows. And whereas babies sleep safest when sleeping alone, on their back in a crib or bassinet with a firm mattress and a lightly fitted sheet with no other items, such as toys, pillows, or blankets in the sleep area, and when they are dressed appropriately so they don't overheat. And whereas the Washoe County Human Services Agency Children's Services Division declares the month of October Infant Safe Sleep Awareness Month in an effort to prevent sudden infant deaths and promote safe sleep practices. Now therefore, as the Washoe County Board of Commissioners we do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Infant Sleep Safe Awareness Month. That's hard to say.
Say that 3 times.
And encourage all Washoe County caregivers, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, babysitters, child care providers, health care providers, and all others to practice safe sleep habits and reduce the risk of accidental infant deaths. Stated this 27th day of October 2020 and signed by our chair, Bob Lucy. And Ryan from HSA, I believe, is on the line.
Yes, Mr. Gustafson, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, good morning, Ryan, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. I just wanted to say thank you to the county commissioners for recognizing Infant Safe Sleep Awareness Month. The Infant Safe Sleep Awareness Outreach Campaign has launched earlier this month, and it's reaching citizens in various ways throughout the year with the goal of reminding everybody about the importance of participating in the ABCs of infant safe sleep, which is alone, back, and crib. The Human Services Agency is engaged in several initiatives to raise awareness, including a billboard campaign courtesy of Lamar Advertising, several RTC bus wraps, TV, social media, public service announcements, and a social media campaign. And we just ask the community to join HSA in raising awareness on the importance of infant safe sleep by following us on Twitter and Facebook using #InfantSafeSleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gustafson. We appreciate all the work that you guys are doing over the HSA in regards to this very important issue. So with that, is there any public comment, Madam Clerk?
There is no public comment.
All right, seeing no public comment on this issue, Madam Chair, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the donation and the proclamation.
The donation's in 9, so this would just be for 8A.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
The donation's in 9, so this is just for 8A.
Oh, okay, so this is just for 8A, okay. So that, well, I didn't realize that we had put it in both places, but okay,
Sorry,
that's great.
apologize.
That works.
Apologize.
So I would make a motion that we approve the
Proclamation.
Proclamation.
Thank you. The word just wouldn't come to me. Thank you very much.
I got a motion and a second. Seeing no public comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously with all 4 commissioners voting and Commissioner Herman being absent. All right, we are on to now item 9, which is our donations. Madam Vice Chair, if you'll read those into the record for us.
Yes, I will.
you.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So 9A1 is to acknowledge and accept the donations of $9,218.07 from various business organizations and individuals for regional parks and open space programs and facilities, and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the appropriate budget adjustments. 9A2 is acknowledge and accept the donation of 10 cell cubicle furniture systems with chairs and chair mats, estimated value of $16,500 from Keller Williams Group 1, Inc., and the Association for the Health Department COVID-19 Call Center. That's just great, because we do need to get that call center up and running, and it is so nice that this company donated that to help out. Appreciate that very much. So 9B is a recommendation to, 1, acknowledge the various items donated totaling an estimated market value of $1,150. 2, accept a donation from Nevada International Order of the Rainbow Girls to Washoe County Human Services to support the children in foster care in the amount of $2,500. And 3, accept donations from various donors to Washoe County Human Services Agency to support welfare activities in the amount of $1,544.80 retroactive to the period of August 1, 2020 through September 30th, 2020. And again, thank you to everybody who's so active there. 9C is a recommendation to accept a donation of $25,000 at no cost to the county from the Sun Valley General Improvement District to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office for the Sheriff's Office Patrol Division to assist with abandoned vehicle removal and abatement efforts in the Sun Valley area. This is such a great idea, boy. We really have a problem out there, and it's so nice that we have the GID stepping forward to make a donation to assist in this project. So I want to thank all of these people and all who are involved in the donations that they make to help citizens in Washoe County and help us as elected officials in Washoe County, and that is in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And I know you read it in there, and I just want to thank the International Order of the Rainbow for Girls for their donation. I know that they have worked tirelessly to support the efforts at HSA, and so
Yes,
thank
they
you for their
have.
donation. We really do appreciate it. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on the
There
donations?
is no public comment.
Seeing no public comment on the donations, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting, present commissioners voting, and Commissioner Herman being absent. All right, we are on to item 10, our consent agenda. And so our consent agenda is in our packets this morning, and this is represented through items 10A1 through 10F1. Is there any items in the consent agenda that any commissioners would like any kind of discussions on or any comments? Seeing none, I will look for a motion to accept the consent agenda as drafted.
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Hartung, second by Madam Vice Chair. I will look, is there any public comment?
There's no public
No
comment.
public comment on the consent agenda. So with that, we'll bring it back to the board. I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners present voting. All right, we are on to, that ends the end of our consent agenda. Madam Vice Chair, do you have a block vote this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to put item 11, 12, 13, 14, and 16 in a block vote.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to put items 11, 12, 13, 14, and 16 into a block. Mr. Manager, will you please read those into the record?
Yes, Mr. Chair, item 11 is a recommendation to acknowledge receipt of change log attachment as Exhibit A for the 2020-2021 assessment roll that results in a net increase of $477,688,627 in assessed values. Item 12 is a recommendation for the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners to nominate Jason Geddes to the Board of Directors of the Nevada Clean Energy as the Washoe County nominee to submit to the governor to fill a term of 3 years from the appointment. Item number 13 is a recommendation to approve budget amendments totaling an increase of $160,000 in both revenue and expense to the FY21 Family Planning Program, retroactive to April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021, and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the appropriate budget adjustments. Item number 14 is a recommendation to approve a master consulting software agreement with Civic Solutions Group to provide hosted support for automated IVE, or 4E, I'm sorry, claiming and random moment in-time systems, and technical assistance and strategic planning support for cost allocation plans within the Human Services Agency, effective upon execution of the agreement, and shall continue for a period of 2 years with an option to extend up to 3 additional one-year periods in a total amount not to exceed $1,469,531 for FY '21, $257,000 for FY '22. Did I do that right? Yes. And $290,176 FY '23, $298,645. FY '24 is $307,368. FY '25 is $316,342, and authorize the purchasing and contracts manager to sign the agreement. Item number 16 is a recommendation to approve the purchase of one Hamilton Starlet robot with a Thermo Fisher Presto head to be used for the quantification and amplification setup of forensic casework DNA samples at a cost of $200,355.50, using $195,205 from the 2018 Capacity Enhancement Backlog Reduction DNA Grant, IO 11515, and $5,150.50 from the restricted funding set up for DNA offender mandates per NRS 176.0911-0917, IO 20391, under a sole source purchasing exemption.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. We do have a motion and a second on the block vote. Is there any public comment on any of these items?
I have no one signed in on any of these items.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate that. Bring it back to the board. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And Commissioner Jung, that was an aye, correct?
Yes, it was, sorry.
Okay, so all those voting, so that's, motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. And we will move on. All right. So we are on to item 15, Mr. Manager.
Item 15 is a resolution in support of the acquisition of the Governor's Bowl Park site for an emergency homeless shelter site.
All right. All right, and this is a resolution in support for the, as we've spoken a number of times this morning in regards to utilizing, sending our letter of resolution to support this for temporary shelter for our vulnerable populations and homeless, those individuals experiencing homeless here in the area. I wanted to have a quick discussion about this. I know the Vice Chair brought up some discussions that I'd like to probably, have as well, is what are we doing, what is the best bang for our dollar in regards to this, and what we can, is this the right move for us or not? So with that, I will open it up for discussion. Madam Vice Chair, did you want to add anything more? I mean, being as a member of the CHAB and being involved in this for a long time, I know you have a lot of insight to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is an extremely important situation for us because we do need to find a location that will be a permanent location that will get much of the homeless into a more stable location than the Record Street location is currently. And so I am not in any way opposed to this. If this is the best site, I think that's a great idea. I just want to make sure that we are cognizant of the tax dollars, the unincorporated county tax dollars that are going into it. As we all know, certainly the majority of homeless do not come from unincorporated county. And so that doesn't, however, change the responsibility we as elected county officials have towards homeless in the Washoe County area, regardless of whether they're in unincorporated or in the cities. So I have no opposition to this, but I do want us to be cognizant of the amount of money that we're spending and make sure that we keep our citizens advised of how much we're spending in the overall picture of homeless. So this is an additional site over and above what we put into Record Street, what we've put into It's Our Place, and this is an additional amount. And I know that Amber Howell and her team are on top of all of this. I think one of the other questions is, how will it be managed once it's opened? And so I know that decision hasn't really been made yet either. We're not at that stage, but I think that's another part of it that we need to make sure we stay on top of. So those would be my only comments. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Manager, I do have a comment or a question more, in specifically for this site. Do these funds look towards acquisition of land, like purchasing of land? I know that some of the Governor's Bowl is federal land, but if this site were to be selected, there is surrounding or neighboring properties, geez, I can't get my words out this morning. Neighboring properties that would be involved in this. Do these funds look at that as well, acquiring those properties as well?
So, Commissioner, or Mr. Chair, yes, you're correct. The Governor's Bowl is government land, but there could be acquisition costs for adjacent parcels.
Okay. All right. And so I think the Vice Chair is, I think as we move along, if we are acquiring property, how does that management, who's the oversight and management structure of that, so that, because property acquisition is one thing, but we want to make sure that that falls under either the interlocal agreement between all three entities, or, how that's overseen, so. But still in support of this, I think this is what, as we pointed out, we need to continue to address the need within our community. And we're seeing it grow continually throughout the area. I know the Hope Springs project, which is directly across the street,
Yes.
will be opening soon, and their construction will be completed here relatively quickly. And and that's where we've had our alternative feeding site there, right there by that location. So this is a well-suited location. It's right on the bus route. Lots of access for our staff and caseworkers to get to these individuals there. So it is a very, very functional and viable site. And when we have this opportunity, we should be addressing this situation. The Vice Chair has been a strong advocate for moving forward, and as well as me on the CHAB board. We've done a lot of work there, and I think this is the right move. So, and this is definitely one of those things that all three municipalities agree on. So might as well take advantage of that as well. So with that, Commissioner Hartington, do you have anything?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I wanted to acknowledge the state in the actual Governor's Bowl site. They were very helpful. NDOT was very helpful. I know that a piece of that is going to be taken up with the Spaghetti Bowl Express, a new alignment. There's need for a little bit more right-of-way there, so I know that we're going to kind of take a bit of a haircut on that parcel. But I am also very supportive of the obtaining of the additional parcels, and ultimately trying to move forward with a site where we can really fulfill some of the longer-term goals of not just housing, but reassimilating, getting more programs like Crossroads, Sober 24, 24/7 in, and really making almost like a secondary our place that will serve sort of a different population. So I'm very supportive of this.
Yeah, and this is definitely that first step to address those concerns within our community. But I've also been in conversations with the manager, and there's some good things that we're looking at for some more permanent solutions down the road as well that his team has been working on, and I'm excited to hear when those become public, what we are looking at, and some opportunities that are out there. So some good things to come. So. But this is the right direction for the first step. And so with that, seeing no further discussion, Commissioner Jung, I forgot to ask you, do you have anything that you'd like to add this morning? This is in your district.
Yes, it is. I would like to add that we should continue marching forward to be the leaders and owners of this population, along with the assistance of the cities that it affects. And this is certainly not a solution. This is treating a symptom that is, I don't think there's any county or city in a free society that doesn't have to deal with this issue. I also believe we got a lot of money coming back to us from suing the opioid creators that promised all of these people going to get relief from basically, it seems like anything, that they were told this was non-addictive and not a problem at all, and actually was really pushed upon them. So I think that we at the very least have to provide places for people to go so that they do not freeze to death in Washoe County. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner General. We appreciate that. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of the people from both the cities and the county who have been working on this. This is really a program of caring about those individuals who need extra help. And it shows that this community is interested and is willing to step forward, not just to house them and feed them, but also to give them training programs so they can get back on their own feet. And I just want to say, good job, everybody. I'm really pleased to see that we are all pulling together as a team and working to resolve these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. All right, seeing no further comments from the commission, I'm looking for a motion
So moved.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Hartung, second from Madam Vice Chair. I will call for the vote if there's no further discussion. Oh, wait, is there any public comment?
There is no public
Seeing no
comment.
public comment, we'll bring it back to the board. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously with all commissioners present voting. All right, so that takes us to the last order of business for the day. This is item 17. This is a public hearing, so we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Manager, this is item 17. This is a second reading and adoption of an ordinance. So before we get into that, Madam Clerk, can we get a bill number and an ordinance number, please?
This was bill number 1848, and it will become ordinance number 1659 if passed. An ordinance pursuant to Nevada Revised Statute 278.0201 through 278.0207, adopting a development agreement between 1, Washoe County, and 2, Spanish Springs Associates Limited Partnership for Harris Ranch, a residential subdivision originally approved in 2016, TM 160-007, to extend the recording of the first final map from November 1st, 2020 to November 1st, 2022. The approved subdivision is a 610-lot, single-family residential common open space subdivision as authorized in Article 408 of the Washoe County Development Code. The location is southeast of Pyramid Highway and Alamosa Drive in Spanish Springs and is comprised of 9 parcels that total approximately 610.34 acres. The parcels are located within the Spanish Springs Area Plan. The property is located within the Spanish Springs Citizens Advisory Board boundaries and within Washoe County Commission District Number 4. APN S 534-600-14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 076-290-44.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any public comment, being this is a public hearing and a second reading and adoption of the ordinance? Is there any public comment signed in?
I have nobody signed in.
All right. Is there anybody via Zoom? All right, seeing nobody via Zoom, we'll bring it back to the board. Further discussion on this item. We have heard it, Madam Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to let you know that I had asked about voting on this since I received a donation from this company, and I received a notice back from our district attorney, Mr. Wattsfield, saying pursuant to NRS 281A 422, the provisions of subsection 1 do not require a public officer to disclose any campaign contributions that the public officer reported in a timely manner pursuant to NRS 294A.120 or 294A.125. And since I either did report it or if I got it after October 1st, which I don't remember,
Okay.
I will report it in the next one. It's already in the list to be reported.
Perfect,
So I will be voting on this.
perfect. Thank you. All
So,
right.
Mr. Chair, this
Yes.
is Dave. I just wanted to confirm that, that is the case and that the citation is correct. The commissioner, in our opinion, does not have to abstain from this. She didn't need to report it in the first instance. So the fact that she didn't need to report means that she can go ahead and vote.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy District Attorney. We do appreciate that clarification. So Seeing no further discussion on this, I will call for the vote, or actually looking for the motion. I need a
Yes.
motion first.
Need a motion?
Yes.
So I'd be happy to do that. This has
Alright.
been on the books for many years, actually, in Spanish Springs. They've asked for this for the simple reason that COVID has really forced them into a corner, that this was supposed to be done at the very beginning of this year, and everything got delayed because of COVID. But I move that we adopt ordinance number 1659 as outlined in the staff report.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Hartung, second by Madam Vice Chair. Seeing no further discussion on this item, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. All right, we thank you very much for everybody. We will close item 17. And we are on to item 18. Mr. Manager.
Item 18 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
All right. Are there any public comments signed in?
I have nobody signed in.
All right. Anybody in via Zoom? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. We're on to our final item, item 19. Mr. Manager.
Commissioners and county managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas. Mr. Chair, I have nothing further.
All right. Madam Vice Chair, do you have anything? Commissioner Jung?
No, thank you.
All right, Madam Commissioner Hartung? Sorry, it's the mask, it throws me off. Yeah, the mask and the long hair throws me off. All I have to say, I want to make sure everybody reminded, we do have as the county manager said, we do have 7 days left in voting. We've had a good turnout, about 40% of the registered individuals turn out thus far, but that means everybody still has time to vote through the week at your early voting locations. Make sure you get out and vote, exercise your civil abilities. And if you can't make it to early voting, we will see you on Election Day. So with that, seeing nothing further, have a wonderful Tuesday, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Commissioner.